By the answer of David Cohen Shlita.
Where do you send David Morgenstern mentioned Chazonish, and since it's relevant to what I'm going to speak about, I just want to point out that what the Chazonish is saying is actually a Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvahs. The Rambam says that the mitzvah of Ahavas Hashem obligates us to be makar of people to avodas Hashem, because you see that Yeshaya, Avram Avinu, was called Avram Oihavi. Says the Rambam, the teva of Bnei Yodam, that if someone is the object of your love, you want everyone else to love that object that you love. So since Avram was the Makarev of the Brios to Avodas Hashem, he's Avram Oavi. So that's exactly what the Chazanish meant. It's one thing. At the Hesped, I said something which may be true in Pshat, maybe it's just Rash. I'm uncertain. I mentioned the Gemara in Ksuvas Daf Yud Zayin that Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Loi was a great tzaddik. He did certain things, and the Gemara says when he was nifter, there was an Amud Ha'esh. And the Gemara says that only takes place by Chad B'dorah, Trei B'dorah. So I claim that the Gemara means not that a Chad B'dorah must have an Amud Ha'esh. It's only when you need to be Machriya. There are a lot of individuals that were outstanding. So the Amud Ha'esh is saying this is one of the Chad B'dorahs. But I felt that the Nifta Rabbi Dovid Zatzal doesn't need an Amud Ha'esh. Everyone knows he was a Chad B'dorah. So I have a kasha. I would ask this kasha after breakfast. It's an hashkafa, but it's a kasha. Rav Tzaddik HaKohen says on the Gemara, Kishem she'en partzufein Shabbos, kachen deyesein Shabbos. Every single individual is different. Just as people think different, just as they look differently, they think differently. Kishem she'en partzufein Shabbos, kachen deyesein Shabbos. Says Rav Tzaddik, Ki loma lo shnayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't need two of a kind. So evidently, every single individual is a Chad B'dorah. So what do you mean? An Amud Ha'esh is Machriya. Every single individual is a Chad B'dorah. So what's Pshat in the Gemara? And I believe that that's the Toelis of a Hesped, to point out the teretz of this kasha. There's a mystical, it should be mystical, it's a Zayra Kodesh. Kudshe berichu v'Yisrael v'Yiraisa chadu. The Maral says in the Gemara in Shabbos Kaflamet Ches that after Klal Yisrael went into Golus, the Gemara says, so it's very hard to know Pshat in the Gemara. The Gemara's Lashon is Lo Motzinu Mishnah Brura V'Halacha Brura B'Mokem Echad. Or as the Yerushalmi puts it in Shkolim, that Divrei Torah Aniyim B'Mokem Zeh V'Ashirim B'Mokem Achad. That many a time there's a Gemara, you don't begin to know what it's all about, and then you see, oh, that other Gemara is telling me Pshat here. It's Aniyim B'Mokem Zeh. It's impoverished. I don't know Pshat. But if I see the other Gemara, I know Pshat in this Gemara. And it would seem that's the way Torah is written. Says the Maral, this is after Yidden went to Golus. Because Yisrael v'Yiraisa chadu. So if Yidden are mefuzar u'mefayrad, so is the Torah. That's the Pshat. So we went into Golus. We're mefuzal mefayla. The Torah becomes mefuzal mefayla. It's a reflection of, because Yisrael v'yirai sechadam. And I once pointed out that you'll notice that in Harav, Avasalom, which the Yerushalmi calls a birchas hatayra, if you forgot to make birchas hatayra, you yaitzu with it. So we bring in the thing, v'yavienu l'shalom, me'al b'kamfas haaretz. What's the relevance? According to the Maral, that's the relevance. And it's so interesting that I would say in the last 30, 40 years, a tremendous amount of svarim of likutim, because there's a great deal of Pisa Yisrael which is being undone, so it has to reflect in the Torah. There's a plethora of svarim that are kaseda being printed, almost I would say daily. Likutim, Pisa, no more Pisa. Everything is being collected together. We find that the Gemara says in Erev and Nundalad that if we only would have had Luchas Rishonos, there would be no Shikha. The reason that we forget Torah is because we needed Luchas Shnius. What is the Pshat? And I believe the Pshat is as follows. Because after the Cheta Egel, it was impossible for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to accept us. That's the Gemara Brachas, where the Gemara says, that Hashem says, a pasuk in Yeshaya, Gam Elo Tishkachna, Elo Elohecha Yisrael, that you shouted when you made the Egel, I'm going to forget it. Ein Shikha Lefnei Kisei Kvadecha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't forget. What does this mean? It means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in order to relate with us, to us, after Chet Egel, he can only do it if he forgets. So he utilizes the midah of Shikha so he can relate to us. So if the only way we got Luke, so the Gemara says, Knesset Yisrael said, maybe you'll forget Nasiv and Ishma if you forget. No. Onoichi lo yishkachem. That I won't use the midah of Shikha for that. Nasiv and Ishma remain. But since our relationship that Hashem gave us, Luchas Shnius, is only because he uses the midah of Shikha, if he uses the midah of Shikha, it must reflect in the Torah. Because Kudsha Barichu Vayrai Sechadu. So if he uses Shikha for our relationship, there has to be Shikha in Luchas Shnius. This is again, Kudsha Barichu Vayrai Yisrael Chadu. I would like to point out, and it's really, what is there to point out? We all knew him. It's so much prolix to speak about him who didn't know him and who didn't know everything about him. He was a real Tocho Kabaro. But we know that every single thing that he did was with extraordinary hispilus, hislavus. So his avodah to Kodesh Baruch Hu was mamash, the very same way when he learned Torah with his Talmidim. Where he got the energy from, nobody knows, except the Rabbeinu Shloshem. And that way he was a Chad B'Doyla. Everything he did was with tremendous energy. And with that is Slavis itself. Kamat, he didn't have to say Musa. He was a chunk of Musa by himself. Everything that he did, he didn't have to say. Every action that he did reflected this midah, his Slavis. So his avodah to Kudsha Baruch Hu was with Meshunadik Slavis, the way he davened. He stared me, I used to daven near him, he stared me in my davening because they were just shouting, and every word that came out was like, it was difficult for me to be Muhammad. So his davening, his avodas Hashem directly, was his slavis. His Torah, when he said a shir to his Talmidim, so his slavis. And his Avos Yisrael, as we all know, was also with great slavis. There was a unity in everything that he did. This Kutshabarichu v'yoiraisa v'Yisrael chatu was blatant in everything that he did. No, so I believe that with his avodah, this Chad B'Dorah, with his avodah, what he awakened in us is that every one of us is a Chad B'Dorah, because Lama Lo Shnayim. He was a blatant Chad B'Dorah, but that's his avodah, and what we have to learn from him is that each and every one of us is Lama Lo Shnayim. So what we have to do is to be consistent in our relationship of Kutshabarichu, Ayraisa, V'Yisrael. So usually we finish a hesped that he should be a Meilitz Yosher on the Yechidim and on this Yachid and the Mishpacha, etc., etc. And then we say it should be a Meilitz Yosher for Klal Yisrael. It doesn't have to be said, because it's a Havas Yisrael, and it's a Hava for Kol Echad V'Yechad V'Yisrael, is clearly that it doesn't have to be said. Tehei Nishmasek Tzchura B'Tzorach Chaim.